So what exactly is advanced filter? If we have an option in Excel to use filter and just get the data that we want, why do we even want to use advanced filter? So if you look at the screen and the sheet, it gives you a glimpse of how useful and how effective it can be. So let's just quickly take a look on how exactly it works. So on the left-hand side in column B and C, we have the data. Now, this is a very, very simple data. So it has a bunch of names of students. So instead of names, I've just mentioned student 1, 2, 3, 4, and it goes up till student 100. And then subjects of those students. So subjects are, again, just to keep it simple, I've just taken two subjects, English and French. Now, the situation is that what if you want to check how many students have English as a subject and how many students have French as a subject? How do we do it? So, one simple way of doing it is just selecting the headers, the headlines, or the headings of the columns, going to data and then filter. And then we can simply filter out whatever we want. And that's it. However, the problem arises or the need of advanced filter comes into play when we have to do this not once, not twice, maybe 50 times in 1 hour or maybe 1,000 times a day. What I mean to say is if we have to do this process of applying filter, getting the data, and then removing filter, and then applying the filter to get something else within the same data, it's a very, very tedious task. So instead of that, or instead of using filters, we use an advanced way of using filters, which is called advanced filter. So in this sheet, I've already shown one of the two methods that we can use advanced filter. So let's just ignore this part of the sheet here because this is the filtered value that we are getting. So how it works? It's pretty simple. Instead of selecting these headers and then going to data and filtering it, we just write one of the headers name that we want to filter. So let's suppose in this case, I just want to select the subject as either French or English, and one of the student is also learning German. So three subjects in total. So French, English, or German. How do I do it? So I write the exact same column name, subject. I type in French or English, and then I click on Get Data. And these columns here will have the filtered data from our whole data set in B and C. So if I write French, it gives me French data. And if I write German, it should give me just one record because I only have one student who is learning German. So this is just not only a simple way of using it, but also an effective way and an impressive way of doing things. Second method is if I go to sheet two. So second method would be using the filter formula. So Excel has introduced a new filter formula, which essentially does the same job, but instead of making a button and then assigning a macro to this button, which we'll see how to do, it just acts on the formula and gives the result. So this is again simple. So we write our condition here. It could be a student name also from the data. And we just write English instead of French. So it gives English as a result. Now, this is a pretty simple data so that it's a little easy to understand. Let's look into a little more uh, detailed data. So this is again a random set of data. And now we'll see the method where we use a button to retrieve the information using advanced filter. So let's say you have this data. So it has the ID of the employees, the first name, last name, what's their gender, age, their phone numbers, and the marital status. Now, this is the random data. Now, let's suppose the job is to just enter the IDs and get the relevant information. That's how maybe you want to use it. That's how maybe your boss wants to use it. So how do we go about this? First step would be to write our search criteria. In this case, our search criteria is say ID. So I write the exact same name, or rather, I should just copy it and paste it. And then this section here, cell L3, this would be the search criteria where the user can enter whichever ID the user wants to search. So I'll highlight this using borders. Okay, so this is our search criteria. Now, first of all, how we use advanced filter is, so we have this information. Now we go to data, we go to advanced, and okay, so now it's giving an error because what Microsoft Excel wants is your cursor to be somewhere within the data that you want to use the advanced filter on. So I click here or anywhere within the data, then I go to advanced. The reason why it wants the cursor to be within the data so that it can, in this step, it can automatically select the list range or the data range, or in other words, or in simpler words, it's the data set that you have. So for now, it is selected A2 to G102 automatically. So let's see. G102 is this. So yes, it's covering the whole set of data. So that's my list range. Second option is criteria range. Now, what is your criteria that you want to use? And you want to tell Excel using that criteria that this is what you want to search. So criteria is the ID in this case. It could be the first name, it could be the last name, or it could be multiple criterias also. So for now, we'll just take one criteria and we'll select both of the cells. The cell with the heading, which should again exactly be the same as the one in data. This is a very, very important point. And the second cell would contain the search criteria or whatever the user wants to enter. Now, if you use filter the list in place and click on OK now, it'll only filter the data within the same range. Or in other words, it will work exactly like how we use normal filter in Excel. So let me show you how. But before that, we need to enter some search criteria. So let's say I enter 5725. Okay. So let's do the steps again. So we go to data and then advanced. Now it's not selecting the right range because my cursor was here. So I'll go here, select the whole range, and then criteria range would be my criteria, which is this ID in this case, and filter the list in place. Let's click on OK. So as you can see, it filters the whole data and it works like a normal filter. But we do not want that because if this happens and if you have to repeat this step multiple times, it's a pain. So let's remove this by clicking on clear. Now, let's do the steps again, but this time we'll use copy to another location. So we want to copy the results to a different location. Again, the list range, let's click here, select the whole list. And the criteria, again, is the same ID and copy to. So this could be anywhere within this sheet. So let's say I click here and I want the results, say here. And now if I click on OK, it gives me a single result copied in different range or in different location of the sheet. Pretty easy. Now, in the example that I showed you, the first example, the button that you see here, what the button is doing is it's repeating the same steps using macro. So what the macro will do is whatever steps we have taken to get this result, it'll record these steps and then store it. And once we create a button, we'll assign the same macro or the same set of recorded steps to that button. So as soon as we click on it, it'll automatically do the same thing that we just did. It's pretty easy to do. So let's quickly take a look at it. Right. So first of all, we need to record a macro. So make sure the file that you're using is saved and the format is selected as Excel macro. So how do we record a macro? It's very simple, very easy if the task is same and repetitive. So we go to view, click on macros and record macro. Let's name this macro as advanced filter and click on OK. Now the recording has started. It will only record the steps or the clicks that we'll do or the clicks that we do within Excel. So first step is to go to data sheet, click on advanced. Now it has automatically selected the range, but we'll still do it because we want the macro to record all the steps. So if I click on A2, the macro will record that A2 cell has been selected. And then I'm pressing the right arrow key. So macro will record the right arrow key is being pressed X number of times, however times or whatever number of times I've done it. And then I select the whole data. So this way macro will do the exact same step that I've just done. Then it'll go to the criteria and then it'll select the criteria and then copy to another location and then copy to, let's select the same location again and let's click on OK. So our recording is done because now we have done all the steps. We have repeated everything that we just did. So we'll stop the recording for macro. Okay, so let me delete this. So now we have the recording of the macro with us. Now we need to just put a button, which can be easily done by going to Insert tab. You can choose any shape. I'll choose this one and I'll click here, drag my mouse to get the button. We can change the shape or the format. Let's select this shape and then I want to right click and edit text. Click me to filter. You can write anything. Let's adjust the shape. And then the only step is to assign a macro. So we do a right click, we go to assign macro, and then we select our macro name, which is advanced filter. Click on OK. And then our macro is ready. Now, if we change the ID to say 3383 and click here to filter, oops, sorry, extract this here. So it gives you the result 3383. Pretty easy. Let's quickly now take a look at the second method, which was the filter formula. That's again very, very simple formula. Filter formula is especially helpful in this case if you want the results not in the same sheet, but in a different sheet. So this method that we just saw, it has a limitation wherein if we go to data and then use advanced filter, it only gives the result within the same sheet. If you want the result in a different one, then we can use the filter formula to do that. How we do it, it's again pretty easy. So we get another sheet and we copy all the column names here and we use equal to filter and then array is nothing. It's just the data that we have, the whole data. So we select the whole data, comma, then include. So what do you want to include? So this can also be interpreted as your criteria. So in my case, the criteria is ID. So I'll select the whole column which has the IDs and I'll write is equal to and then this. because this is my search criteria. Close the bracket, press enter, and you get the result. If now you change the ID here to say 4284, so let's see how that works. If you come here, it'll already show you the filtered value. So this is pretty much it. This is how macros work. And this is how we use advanced filter using two different methods.